Okay, we seem to be live. Welcome, everyone. I already see some people here waiting for the presentation, the dxTechTalk to start. Hello. I would love to know where you all are from before we start. So please feel free to write here in the chat. My name is Maria, and I am your host. I'm going to introduce you to Devexperts, our colleagues, and I am from Porto. I would love to know if we have more people from Porto here or not. So let me know where you are in the chat. We can see some highs. Hello. Some people from Sofia. That's great. We also have an office in Sofia, and we do sometimes organize events in person. We haven't since the start of the year, but hopefully we will come back to them soon. Some other people from Porto, that's nice. Portugal, where in Portugal? I'm curious, let me know. Some people from Istanbul. We also have an office in Istanbul, and I think we've done one or two dxTech talks in the past in person, but not a lot. Our office in Istanbul is quite small, but it's nice to see that we have some people from Istanbul watching us now. More people from Bulgaria. That's perfect. Welcome. Oh, okay, Ljubljana. I think that's maybe one of the first times that we had someone from there, at least that I can remember. We always have people from different locations, and sometimes it's so interesting because sometimes they'll come from places that we don't have offices in. Dublin, that's where our headquarters are. Welcome. Georgia, we also have an office there. I will list all of the office locations that we have in a while, but it's nice to see so many people from where we have offices in, more people from Porto. Well, this is amazing. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to continue saying in the chat where you're from. I will start just quickly introducing Devexperts, but I will still be lurking to see where everyone is from in a few minutes. Okay, so my name is Maria, and I'm going to be your host today. Welcome to dxTech Talk. dxTech Talks are a series of free tech meetups that we organize, we Devexperts. If you don't know us, we're an international fintech company, and we specialize in the development of financial software solutions and services for the global capital market industry. We were founded in 2022, and our company has a lot of R&D centers, as you already know. We have in Jersey City, Porto, Vilnius, Munich, Dublin, Tbilisi, Sofia, and also Istanbul. And we launched this project to be more in touch with the tech community so we can share our expertise in fintech, so we could discuss some projects, technologies, tools. Besides online, we sometimes also organize tech communities in Sofia, Porto, and Georgia. But mostly we've been focusing on online events because they always gather so many more people from different locations of the world. Whereas if we have an in Porto, it's usually more people that are living here, and we want to involve people from as many places as we can. We organize a lot of events throughout the year, so if you want to stay up to date with all of them, you can follow us on social media. We're on meetup.com, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Eventbrite, everything. So you can stay in touch and learn more about upcoming events that we have. Today, finally, we're going to, after me talking for the longest time, we have two programs, two dxTech Talk programs. They're going to be around 20 to 25 minutes each, and we'll have some time at the end for a Q&A. So please feel free to ask any questions that you may have in the chat whenever you want, and at the end of the presentation, I will ask them to our speaker. So our first speaker today is Xavier Costa. Xavier is a front-end engineer at Uphold, and he's contributing to the front-end systems behind apps that move real financial volume. But when he's not shipping code, he also is shipping music, which is very interesting, but that's not what he's going to tell us about today. So welcome to the stage, Xavier. We're happy to listen to you. So whenever you're ready, you can just start your presentation. Good luck.
Thank you so much. I love that introduction, by the way. Okay. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Today, let's talk a little bit about nutrition. Let's put your application on a diet. Now, your app is probably bloated unnecessarily, just like when we go out for dinner with some friends and we end up drinking a couple extra beers. Well, it happens, right? It's part of our human life cycle. And so with your app, it's also part of the software lifecycle. Over time, if you do not take measures, then debt will indeed accumulate. Now, you can either take the red pill and just accept it, watch your app's bundle become a snowball avalanche in the future years, or you can take the blue pill. You take action, you perform optimizations, especially following the provided playbook that'll be presented to you in this presentation, which will hopefully, not hopefully, definitely make your applications smoother and blazingly faster. Now, before all of that, my name is Xavier. It's a pleasure being here. I work at Frontend at Uphold. We are a fintech cryptocurrency platform, award-winning by Forbes. And outside of software, I fancy playing some football. I'm a goalkeeper. And as Maria said, when I'm not writing code, I like writing some good music, although good is a very strong word and it's oftentimes arguable and debatable. Nevertheless, 4 seconds. 4 seconds, that's all it takes for the average human attention to start diverging, if not engaged. Your users, they don't have 4 seconds to be staring at a loading screen or a frozen page. As a matter of fact, 53% of mobile visits are abandoned if the page takes longer than 3 seconds to load. Now, this is not from me. This is coming from Google itself. So it doesn't matter if an application has all of these flabbergasting, eye-catching animations and displays, if in reality, each second loading loses customers and product sales. Now, not all is bad, obviously. You can still have these beautiful designs as long as you perform the correct optimizations. And so this playbook will give you multiple baseline tips to enhance performance in your web and mobile applications. Let's jump right onto it. Rule number 1, optimize your images. Now, tell me something. Can any of you spot the difference between these 3 pictures? Probably not, right? Our eyes, they're not microscopes. So these are 3 different picture format extensions. On the left, we have JPEG, perhaps one of the most renowned picture formats out there, along with PNG. On the middle, we have WebP, and on the right, we have AVIF. Now, WebP and AVIF quite literally have the same picture quality whilst offering groundbreaking compression sizes of up to 60%. This means that your original JPEG image can have the same quality, but half of its size converted to WebP or AVIF. This in turn makes your images and website load much faster. Now, if you're worried about compatibility, browsers, they've already thought about this. You can use the picture HTML tag, which will infer if the browser is compatible with AVIF or WebP, and if not, it will fall back to the normal JPEG photo. Plain and simple, start using them, guys. Now, I don't know about you, but personally, I love to dress old money. Here in Portugal, Zara is by far one of the best clothing stores. My personal favorite, definitely not biased. However, their website performance is kind of atrocious. Check this out. Real example of a product navigation, of a product navigation on Zara. Look at this. I'm kind of staring at a blank screen right now. I don't know exactly what's going on, and not a good look for our customers. They have significantly improved in these last few weeks with the latest releases, but it's still not perfect. On the other hand, if you take a look at H&M, smooth, fast loads, skeleton loading, aesthetic, professional, right? Now let's compare it. Zara DevTools analysis shows, guess what? JPEG images for the entire product gallery. On the other hand, H&M, AVIF. Performance is never a coincidence, right? It's effort, it's actually architectural behavior. You can see here, there's absolutely no layout shift going on. It's smooth, it's professional, skeleton loadings, flawless performance by H&M, which takes us precisely into rule number 2. You should defer your non-critical content with lazy loading. Now, imagine you own a restaurant, right? And your client initially is coming to eat starters. So why in the world would you already serve them the main dish, the drinks, dessert, right at the start, right? It doesn't make sense. Your user will have time to eat, and so does your application to lazy load all these subsequent content, which is not yet visible on the page, because it isn't even guaranteed that the user will scroll to those sections. So there are multiple out of the box approaches to perform lazy loading by frameworks, bundlers, etc. This is the most straightforward way to do it with images. And you should also ensure that your UI remains performant when lazy loaded content is being rendered. You can do this by applying skeleton loading and optimistic views. Now, these are so simple to implement and they bring so much UI responsiveness to the table. Another no-brainer, in my opinion. Here at Uphold, we definitely implement this. Here's an example of our skeleton loading for some lazy loaded components. Rule number 3 for web, preload your critical content. Now, preloading, prefetching, preconnecting, these are essentially methods that allow the browser to anticipate certain behaviors, making them finish faster in the near future when they're actually required. For example, this image right here, adding a link tag with preconnect to the source of your largest contentful paint, if it's media, or even to the source of your font or your CVN, will allow the browser to pre-establish that connection earlier, which in turn will make the element be displayed faster in the future because the connection was already present. H&M, again, pre-connecting to all their critical sources, CVNs, fonts, etc. Outstanding performance behavior by H&M. Now, another optimization along these lines is adding font display swap to your fonts. On the left, you have normal browser behavior. It usually blocks the text from being rendered until the application's font is fully loaded. Whereas on the right, if you use font display swap, you allow for these fallback default fonts to be shown instead while the main font is not yet present on the browser. And this in turn allows for a faster and earlier paint of content and less layout shifting. Because you can see on the left, the text is kind of showing up out of nowhere, where in the right, you already have this mental model of where it's going to be placed at. At Uphold, we also use font display swap. This is a throttled example. Now for rule number 4, and the last one in web, server-side rendering and client-side rendering. Now, these are a little bit more complex, but we'll try to keep it as simple as possible, and no better way of keeping it simple than using food. Server-side rendering essentially cooks / renders the page on the server side so that when it reaches the browser, it's already cooked. It's already rendered, so the display is instant and fast. Whereas with client-side rendering, the server simply ships the chunks of the ingredients and sends them to the browser, and then the browser will be responsible for cooking them, displaying them, which theoretically takes longer than server-side rendering. So does that mean you should always use server-side rendering? Not necessarily. Server-side rendering offers faster first paints because of static content. It's better for SEO. It's better for static websites like landing pages where little to no human interaction is required. The drawbacks of SSR are slow navigation between pages because the server has to cook these new pages and less user interactivity. Now, client-side rendering does in fact solve both of these problems. It has a fast navigation after the first paint because the entire bundle is already on the browser and has been evaluated, has been cooked, and rich user in interactivity. Where it lacks is precisely where SSR prevails. So you can see this is like Batman and Robin. They are polar opposites, but just imagine if they could somehow collaborate to fill each other's gaps. It would be the perfect solution. Indeed, this already exists. It's called hydration. So the server sends the entire HTML page. It is immediately displayed on the browser. However, some of the elements are blocked from user interaction, and these will be waiting for hydration from the browser. These elements can be buttons, carousels, anything that involves JavaScript, essentially. This way, the user has a rapid and then interactive UI. Now, to finish, this is probably the best slide of the presentation. Top one, confidential cheat code for this playbook. This gentleman right here is Erwin Hoffman, one of the best web performance analysts in the world. I had the pleasure of speaking to him, and this is subjectively the best way of creating performant web applications with the tools that we have at our disposal today. He says, create a multi-page application that feels like a single-page application using these three cheat codes: the speculation rules, view transitions API, BF cache and compression dictionaries, and server-side caching. Now, not much time to delve further into each of these concepts. These are obviously more complex, and you should definitely explore them with more time, because who knows, they could be the innovation, they could be the future of rapid web applications, just like we didn't know what Next.js or React would be 10 years ago, right? So here's an example of Erwin Hoffman's company, RumVision website, sorry. As you can see here, instant loads, flawless server-side render transitions, view transitions. There are literally like zero performance flaws in this website. Definitely check it out. That was web. Hopefully you've taken some notes. If not, you obviously can always rewatch the presentation. Now, for all the mobile lovers out there, let's jump into quick performance tips for mobile. Now, in this particular case, we'll be using JavaScript with React Native, but some of these rules can still be applied to other mobile frameworks or languages. The first rule, do not inline your callbacks. Each inline callback will re-render if the component re-renders as well. This is a no-brainer. Always extract those callbacks to a higher level function, promoting your usability and avoiding those extra re-renders. Here in this image, you can see the image inline callback being passed directly as a lambda to the input component. This is wrong. What you should do instead is extract it to a higher level function and pass that function as a reference to the input component. No more unnecessary re-renders. Rule number 6, offload your animations to UI. Guys, don't block the chef. Let him cook. When the chef is preparing your meal at a restaurant, the waiters, they don't go there and ask, hey, chef, can you take this plate to that gentleman's table? No, the chef is cooking, right? In this case, the chef is the JavaScript thread, and the waiters are the UI thread. Don't make one do the other's job. Technically speaking, for example, don't use on-scroll handlers that run on the JavaScript thread if it's something purely visual. Use the UI thread instead with worklets, reanimated, tons of libraries for that. And again, don't wait for the server. Use optimistic rendering to provide that instant, snappy feedback to the user. If the server fails, which for some reason still happens in 2026, just revert the visual effect. Using optimistic rendering, as you can see in this picture, is also being performance friendly. Now, at Uphold, we profile these scenarios. So on the left, we have the older version of our carousel, which was using minimal JavaScript handlers that ran on every drag. And they were causing 10 to 15 FPS drops on each scroll. Now, we migrated this component animations to run fully on the UI with reanimated and worklets. And the result was smooth 60 FPS, mostly on both threads, ensuring that the chef is not doing the waiter's job. Now, rule number 7, efficient list rendering. Again, plain and simple, never inline your render item or your key extractor, as it has been said before. And now we have a very, very important question. Ronaldo or Messi? Now, I'm Portuguese, and I would admit that each of them excel at their best qualities, right? And that's the same case for scroll view and flat list. You should use scroll view when there are less list items being shown, and the use case is more animation focused, like the one showed prior, because there's a broader API support for that. On the other hand, you should use flat list when you have dozens, hundreds, thousands of items, since its virtualization only renders the items which are neighbors to the ones being displayed. And this is super useful for logic heavy or filtering use cases. Now, another important question. Al Nasser Ronaldo or Prime Real Madrid Noodles Air Galacticos Ronaldo? Well, both are amazing, but clearly the latter. For these logic-heavy filtering use cases in lists like e-commerce, shopping items, infinite scrolling, etc., The flash list component from Shopify has been shown to perform better in all the aspects. So definitely another keep for your playbook. And finally, last rule, rule number 8, you should use AI. I love this meme. We've all been using AI, and whenever the agent asks, can I do this? Can I do that? Yeah, sure, go ahead, man. I trust you. No, but being for real now, for performance, it's no different. This is almost like kindergarten advice at this point. We should use AI. It's going to take over. We have a very specific playbook advice for using AI to improve your application performance. There is this agent skill by OpenAI co-founder Andrea Karpati, the auto research skill. You simply provide a goal, the agent plans and experiments and starts running them one by one by one. If the experiment improved that goal, the research keeps it. If not, it just discards it. Over time, your goal will be substantially improved, as you can see in this image. So I could just get here with my application and tell the agent, my goal is to improve the first initial load or the LCP. It will perform that research by itself, and you just watch and learn. In the end, you will have real measurable results, like we did at Uphold. Specifically for our web application in this case, on the left, the web view, significant improvements in FCP, LCP, performance score overall. On the right, our mobile view, flabbergasting improvements. Now, these are obviously lighthouse benchmarks with throttle. Nevertheless, outstanding measurable results, applying all of these concepts that have been given throughout the presentation. Now, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. If you want to discuss any of these ideas with me, drop me a message on LinkedIn. And remember that performance is also part of the product. So there are no excuses. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Xavier. This was great. And we have some people already agreeing with me and saying, like, this is an insane presentation. So congrats. I already knew it because I watched it a few times, but I think that you've made even great progress. I wasn't expecting
I
you to
appreciate you.
improve the presentation. It was already pretty good, but good for you.
Thank you.
We have one question here, and guys, feel free to ask any questions that you may have, so Xavier can answer to them, even though the presentation was pretty clear, but it's always nice to have some questions. What bundler choices do you consider best for modern high-performance web applications?
Okay, that's a very interesting question because recently at Uphold, we migrated our bundler from Webpack to Vite. And so I was part of that migration and I was able to learn a lot of stuff. So I would say when talking about bundlers, in my view, I would argue that it really depends on what your project specifications and your team are. It's a fact that, for example, Webpack has been the enterprise battle-tested bundler all these past years, but its build and speed times are starting to get far behind other more recent alternatives like Vite. For example, Vite, again, in my opinion, it's the best in terms of all of this balance. It has rapid development setup, blazingly fast builds, and decently good community support, right? So if your team is fast-paced or the business model is cutting edge and there's this need for rapid deliveries like for MVPs, then I would definitely opt for a more modern bundler like Vite or ESBuild. However, you cannot neglect that Webpack has been the GOAT, the biggest. It has the biggest ecosystem of plugins, and for some use cases, that's one of the better options, right? So again, it really depends on the team and your specific project use case, but hopefully that was enough to answer your question.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think so. Even though I'm not a tech person, it was pretty clear. We have someone asking if there's going to be a recording of this presentation. Yes, we always leave the presentations here. And if you're registered, we're also going to send you an email where you can find the link. As of right now, we don't have any more questions. It's not usual, but maybe it's because your presentation was pretty clear. But let's give people like a few more
Yeah, sure.
minutes in case they want to ask anything else. I don't know if you have anything to add. Oh, okay, we have one. How do you usually keep all of these rules in a project?
these rules.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I guess it's easier for you to keep these rules when you can just add them to your agent specifications, right? You can simply add them to the Markdown file which your agent uses when it initializes a fresh session, and that therefore when you want to, for example, do a quick sanity check, because your mind it's not a library. You cannot like memorize all of these rules in a scrutinized manner, right? So your agent can basically do that sanity check for you. So you document all of these in the Markdown file, and then you just call that skill or ask them, hey, is everything okay? And that way you will have that playbook ready, and you will apply or see if all of those rules were respected in the environment where it is being used. So definitely, I would say that you should use AI now, that because it definitely can help us with keeping this playbook up to date.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. What's your opinion on SSE? And in which scenarios do you think it's not the right choice to use?
I'm sorry, I'm not. Was it SSR?
It says E, but maybe there was
Maybe
another.
maybe I don't have the term in mind. I don't know if you can probably describe the acronym.
I sent it. In the meantime, if you can, I don't know how to pronounce the name. Well, uh, server-side events. Okay, thank
Oh,
you.
server-side events. Okay. Um, that's also a very good question. Now, server-side events, the specific use case for using them would be mainly to enrich the event data. I would say the trade-off is, and I think I'm a firm believer that client-side events are always better because they register the direct client interaction. If your user goes to your application, he clicks this, he clicks that, those are direct real-life examples of the events that can be triggered. Now, server-side events would enrich the metadata or the data payload uh, to some extent, but I don't think that trade-off of losing the real user interactivity with your app is worth it for using server-side events in comparison with client-side events.
Cool, thank you. Nowadays, what is your preferred tech stack for web development? Example, React.js, Redux, etc.
Really quick for this one, if I'm developing like an application that will require authentication, it will require like reliability, you really want to ensure your user is safe, then I would opt for Next.js because it comes with out-of-the-box middlewares and server-side calls, which you can ensure that the user has a smooth and secure experience. Now, if you're just developing like a dashboard, display dashboard, or of some sort, you can use Vite because Vite obviously has this super rapid development and build times as well as performance, really. So it really depends on the use case. Personally, I would go for Vite if it's a simple project or a display project. If it's something more like that requires authentication and almost like server calls, then I would go for Next.js.
Perfect. There is one question that's kind of in two parts that is like, are there any commands to use in AI, or how can one learn how to use AI in their projects?
Okay, so how can you learn to use AI for your project? So I guess you can always uh, just call your harness or your AI agent, show them your repository, and he will tell you, okay, these are the places where we can work. These are the flaws of your repository. These are the things which you're doing good. So that case, if you're not like present with all of these technical concepts, you can always ask the agent for some guidance to help you out, because obviously he won't save you, but he can like enlighten the path for you. That way you can always like ask him for just do a thorough analysis of my repository performance wise and tell me what we can improve and what's already good.
Okay, cool. So we have time for one more question, and it is, do you have a minimum requirement recommendation for next GS use on a server, for example, for a new blog, etc.?
A minimum. Um, Good question. Again, I would believe that Next.js provides such an easy interface to use with like Supabase, with backend as a service application, because you can literally not have a server and you will have authenticated. You can have, for that case, blog. You can have posts which belong only to some users or which can only be visible by some users. Next.js is super useful with this, and as well with Supabase, for example, because you don't have to set up a server, you don't have to set up a backend. You can literally use Next.js in Supabase, and you have that direct connection from the client to the database, which is pretty straightforward for that blog use case, which you're talking about. And I think it's a good fit in your case, definitely.
Okay, cool. I have someone asking just something pretty quick. That is, have you ever used Redux Sagas? I don't know if I'm reading this correctly.
Redux.
Yeah, and if yes, what is your opinion?
Redux, yes, I was a mobile developer 2 years ago, and we did use Redux. And I would say that it obviously always depends. Like recently, there have been more libraries for state management, like Zustand, which I haven't had the opportunity to delve much into it. But back then, I would use Redux, and performance-wise, I never had any complaints. We would oscillate between Redux and React context, and we would use both of them in different use cases. Yeah, that's it.
It's perfect. Thank you so much. This
It's a
was
pleasure.
great. Your presentation was amazing, and even I got to learn a little bit. I'm not front-end
Amazing,
developer or
amazing, Maria.
anything even remotely related, but it was very interesting. I love the way that you present, and I'm very happy to have had you as a speaker. I hope that
Thank you so much.
maybe you can repeat the experience. Who knows?
Definitely, who knows? For
Okay,
sure.
thank you so much, Xavier. Have a
Thank you,
nice
guys.
day. And
Thank you all.
as you guys already know, you can find Xavier on LinkedIn. If you have any questions or if you just want to add him, feel free to do that.
Bye-bye,
Okay,
guys.
bye.
Pleasure.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
Now let's move on to the second speaker. Sergei Muravskii is a front-end developer and he's been at Devexperts for a long time. He has over 7 years of experience creating intuitive, high-performance user interfaces and has worked on e-commerce and enterprise trading platforms, focusing on usability, web standards, and accessibility. Okay, so welcome to the stage, Sergey. You can just take the lead and start your presentation whenever you're ready. I think yeah, we can see your screen, but you're muted.
Hi everyone, I'm glad to see you all there. And thank you for introduction. I will just start that I've been actively practicing developer tooling and AI-assisted workflows. Now we can start. These are three known issues of large language models, especially in software development. These are single file engineering ceiling, AI hallucinations, and context threat. In next 20 minutes, I will explain how it's technically possible to fix them by involving retrieval-augmented generation. We will also talk about what is required from our side to avoid these problems. In the end, we will use Cursor as a practical case study of repository-scaled RAG and conclude with operational guidance of safe AI assistant development. So one of the main purposes of RAG is to augment the context with useful information, additionally to the input prompt. In early Copilot, it was possible only to feed the context with currently opened tab. It could suggest us some code utilities or methods that are barely related to the project. Modern IDEs, on the other hand, allow us to index the whole repository. in order to help with more complex tasks. Here is an example of one of the first code completion repository level tool, RepoCoder. The research shows that it has achieved absolute improvements in such scores as the exact match and added similarity by 10 and 8% respectively. Limited context is closely related to the next problem, AI hallucinations. The visualization on this slide shows fragmented knowledge clusters. When the model encounters ambiguous, incomplete, or poorly represented information, it predicts the most probable continuation. When the relevant knowledge region is sparse or disconnected, the model interpolates. Interpolation is estimating unknown values within a range of known data points. That interpolation is what we call hallucinations. So when the API, research topic, or internal corporate convention appeared rarely during LLM training, the model has weak statistical grounding. The result is often confident but fabricated reasoning. The next problem is context rot. The research from the article Lost in the Middle, How Language Models Use Long Contexts, shows a consistent pattern. The model performs best when the relevant information appears either near the beginning or near the end of the context. Performance degrades when the important information is located in the middle. This creates a practical engineering problem. Even if the model accepts massive context window, the performance still depends on placement and prioritization. Moreover, excessive context usually harms retrieval quality. So we discussed three major LM issues. Let's now see how they can be fixed with RAG from technical point of view. To augment LLM context, first we need to store relevant information. This data is usually stored in fixed size chunks, from which the embedding engine then generates vectors. These vectors are indexed by the vector database. This process is called vectorization or embedding. The example here shows how chunks are located in a vector store. Vectors are represented as array of numbers, which allows search engine to find relevant chunks by coordinates and distance between these vectors. So when there is some indexed data, it makes sense to perform the index search. Index search is the process happening at the request time. Basically, the same embedding engine generates vectors from the user query. Then it searches for relevant chunks in the vector store. In simple RAG, these chunks are then just added to the context next to the input query. But there are also advanced techniques, particularly for the retrieval phase. So user query can be enriched with hierarchical chunks and hypothetical questions. Hybrid search consists of index search we have just discussed and text search through the metadata, which can be stored along with chunks. Advanced RAG systems usually handle multiple results of retrieval. The significant part here is filtering and re-ranking. Filtering excludes irrelevant chunks from the context. Re-ranking puts the most relevant chunks at the top of the context. This method is primarily aimed to fix context rot problem we discussed earlier. So this is the example of chunk storage fragment from Microsoft implementation. Here chunks enriched with such metadata as keywords, summaries, and hypothetical questions. This is made for multi-stage hybrid retrieval. In conjunction with previous methods, it helps to get as much relevant data as possible. After filtering and ranking, the most relevant chunks stay at the top of the context. So we have just discussed general components of advanced RAG, explained how enriched context helps to have granular response without hallucinations, and how re-rankings helps to avoid context rot. Let's now look closer at the particular cursor RAG and see how it helps in software development. So cursor does not just split the source code into chunks. It parses the repository into abstract syntax trees. Abstract syntax tree-aware chunking preserves structural boundaries between functions, classes, and logical scopes. So instead of plain chunks with fixed number of symbols, we have finalized logical code blocks. It helps during retrieval precision, for the retrieval precision during a semantic search. So after chunking, cursor generates embeddings. It happens as in other advanced RAG. Embeddings are generated by the same embedding engine as was used for indexing. But the difference is that along with embeddings also stored metadata. This metadata always includes file paths and line ranges. Sometimes it includes also language type and other metadata such as function names, classes, etc. The imported detail here that only vectors and metadata are stored remotely. This prevents the system from the code exposure and keep it secure. The actual matching with source code happens locally. So the retrieval and post-retrieval phases and processes in Cursor are named semantic search. It consists of 3 phases. First, the user query is converted into vectors. These vectors are then located in the same semantic space as indexed vectors. Then in remote server, so the server compares stored vectors with query vector and returns metadata of the most relevant chunks. And then this metadata is received locally, and Cursor fetches the relevant code according to this metadata. So then this code is used for further conversation with LLM or for other tools. Cursor also uses Miracle trees to track repository changes. Approximately each 5 minutes, the repository is scanned. Each file is hashes into fingerprint. These hashes then combined into a root fingerprint that represents the repository state. Then the remote service compares the root fingerprint with previous state and processes the different branches. So the only changed files require embedding. The final layer is the developer-facing interface. Cursor exposes the retrieval capabilities through these several interaction patterns. Mentions allow developers to inject explicit context. Rules provide persistent behavioral constraints and project conventions. Skills introduce reusable workflows and integration with third-party tools. So it means that retrieval quality is not only backend concern. The UI also shapes context selection. So this means that developers are still responsible for the result of generated code. Moreover, since the Copilot first release, things have changed significantly. Here is risk classification of products that use AI from the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act. After a wave of failed attempts of integrating ChatGPT into various sectors, for example, the law sector with its fabricated citations, in 2024, European Union developed the Artificial Intelligence Act. This act defines the deployer role for products for companies that use generated content in their products or services. They are now obligated with straightforward responsibilities and limitations. AI-assisted development also introduces measurable security risks. Git Guardian reported that over 23 million public repositories has leaked secrets. Higher percent of, so 40% of higher secret leaked happened in AI-enabled repositories. At the same time, Sneak reported that 80% of developers bypass security policies in order to use AI tools. Also, more than 75% of developers think that AI written code is more secure than human written code. So in order to not be a part of statistic from previous slide, here is a checklist for efficient and safe AI-assisted development. First, so you need to prefer manual review over auto-run mode. So each diff should be reviewed before accepting. Second, coding standards and corporate convention should be defined in project rules. Third, as we mentioned before, tasks should be managed in that way, so the context doesn't shift or shrink during conversation. Production secrets should be kept untracked by using ANV files or remote key vaults. Destructive or sensitive comments should be blocked in IDE settings. So the example of these comments, so this may be comments that published a library or install packages or remove some directories. And the last is privacy mode. It should be enabled if you don't want to share your source code for LLM training or cursor improvements. So involving RAG allowed us to use the whole repository for AI-assisted development. A hybrid search, ranking, and other methods of advanced RAG helps avoiding context rot and achieve granular response without hallucinations. However, these issues periodically popping up, mostly because of misusing of the AI agent that supports all these methods. So the responsive usage with technical knowledge of how it works helps avoid these problems almost always. And as AI becomes integrated into development processes, engineering workflows, verification privacy become the core responsibility of software development. So thank you for listening. I would be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you so much, Sergey. Okay. We had some people talking about different things during your presentation, which was interesting to see. But yeah, we do have some questions already. If the source code isn't processed remotely in Cursor, what is a private mode needed for?
Private mode doesn't allow to share the source code for LLM training and product improvements. These are separate processes from what we discussed before.
Okay, that's interesting. Right now, we don't have any more questions yet, but let's just give people a little bit more time before we move on. In the meantime, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add or anything that you would like to go deeper on quickly.
Depends on questions. I would like so.
Someone asked, what is your IDE cursor?
Oh, so I didn't get the question. So my IDE is Cursor.
Yeah, IDE. There's a comma. Yeah.
Yeah, my IDE currently is Cursor. Yes.
Okay. Cool. So I don't know. Seems like maybe your presentation was pretty clear because we currently don't have a lot of questions. Let's give people a little bit more, like a minute or so. If you guys don't have any questions, I guess that we could move on. But it would be nice because having questions is always gets the conversation going. Well, okay. It seems like maybe your presentation was pretty clear and people have understood everything. So thank you for your presentation. That was great. And I hope that you all enjoyed and learned a lot. Thank you for joining. We currently don't have any more events planned until because until September, because during the summer we usually give people a break. We know that everyone is off to, vacation, but we do post our events on social media. So if you want to come to our future events that will happen soon, well, not soon, but soon enough after summer. And if you want to be a speaker, you can also apply. We have a call for papers on our landing page, and would be happy to have you as a speaker in the future. Sergei, thank you again so much for your time.
Yes,
And hopefully we will see each other at a dxTechTalk in person in Tbilisi soon.
thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.